Today we're tackling one of the absolute highest stakes maneuvers any business can possibly undertake. We're talking about migrating your lifeblood, your data, from a legacy system over to a brand new ERP platform. Look, this isn't just a drag and drop file transfer. We are going to look closely at the exact proven strategies to move that data safely, accurately, and, crucially, without completely burning out your team in the process.
And I really want to start right off the bat by asking you a serious question. Is your company actually ready for surgery? Because according to the experts at Panorama Consulting, treating an ERP implementation as just another standard IT project, like a simple software install, is a massive fundamental mistake. When you rip out your old financial, operational, and customer systems to put in a new one, you are literally performing open-heart surgery on your business. If it fails, the consequences can be completely fatal to the organization. So we need a flawless, engineered treatment plan.
And here is that exact treatment plan for today's explainer. We'll start with the risks of system surgery, move into a real cautionary tale, then cover accurate data cleansing, our mapping and automation strategy, testing readiness, and finally, the crucial human factor. Okay, step 1. System surgery, risks and consequences. Let's understand the stakes. Before anyone opens you up on the operating table, you really need to understand the true risks. This independent research from Panorama Consulting Group details the incredibly stark realities versus the optimistic expectations that companies usually start with. Vendors absolutely love showing you the best-case scenarios, but the reality on the ground is that these initiatives are incredibly complex and incredibly time-consuming. To really anchor this discussion and put things into perspective, consider this staggering number: $10.5 million. That is the average cost of an on-premise ERP implementation. $10.5 million. And despite that massive investment, Panorama actually found that only 50% of companies realized half or more of the business benefits they originally anticipated. Think about that for a second. That shows exactly why failure, or even just a mediocre, middle-of-the-road rollout, can be so financially devastating to a company.
But here's the thing. The biggest complication in this whole operating room isn't just the software itself. It's the people. Look at this. A massive 63% of companies struggle with change management during their implementation. 63%! The software might be perfectly configured, the code might be pristine, but if your staff resists the change, the surgery is a failure.
Which brings us to part 2, the soft drink company failure. A real cautionary tale of burnout. Take this real-world example of a major, long-standing soft drink bottler who completely botched their implementation of a 17-module ERP system. They went in with this stubborn, do-it-yourself philosophy and literally ignored their consultants' advice. They forced an inexperienced internal IT staff to handle all these complex ERP tasks right on top of their normal day-to-day jobs. It was a disaster. The expert approach, on the other hand, demands the exact opposite: dedicated project teams, temporary help, and certified advisors guiding the ship.
So by trying to save a few dollars on temporary help, this bottler pushed their team to the absolute brink. Employees were expected to work 80 to 90-hour work weeks. No additional incentives, no recognition, just endless grinding. And this severe human burnout directly led to key veteran employees quitting the organization entirely. Furthermore, due to pure exhaustion and a verbal miscommunication, the head of the IS department actually got fired. It's a tragedy, really. You simply cannot tackle this without proper, dedicated support. All right, part 3, accurate data cleansing and assessment. This is where we treat the vitals. So how do we actually avoid a disaster like that bottler? According to the experts at Sweetworks Tech, there is a fundamental, unbreakable rule of data hygiene that you have to follow. Migrating bad data equals carrying your old problems into a new system. It really is that simple. If your legacy data is full of duplicates, errors, and outdated records, moving all that garbage to the cloud will only trigger massively costly downstream errors. So the absolutely crucial point here is defining what a true data assessment actually is. It's the process of rigorously evaluating your legacy sources very early on, whether you're moving from QuickBooks, Oracle, or some completely homegrown custom system, to define exactly what actually needs to move. Because here's a secret. Not all legacy data needs to survive the surgery. You might only need historical journal entries or past inventory balances for your audit trails. The rest, it can be safely archived. Leave the baggage behind. Moving into part 4, mapping and automation strategy. Let's step right inside the operating room. Let's walk through the exact step-by-step engineered framework that certified experts use to completely de-risk your data migration. Step 1 is that comprehensive assessment we just talked about. Step 2 is structured field mapping. This means building a meticulous data dictionary so that your general ledger balances and your inventory don't turn into orphan data in the new system. Step 3 involves actually writing the automation scripts to move the data. And Step 4? Executing highly controlled dry runs and testing before the real thing ever happens.
Certified experts rely heavily on these automation tools for a very good reason. Manual imports are incredibly error-prone. We're human, we make mistakes. But by utilizing tools like SuiteScript and controlled CSV import templates, you ensure absolute 100% repeatability. When you're moving high-volume datasets, we're talking thousands of customer records or massive item masters, minimizing manual human error is literally the only way to ensure accuracy.
Section 5. Testing and go-live readiness. Let's check the weather before we launch this thing.
Executing a go-live without thorough, intense validation is exactly like launching a ship without checking the weather forecast. 54% of ERP projects finish past their due date. More than half. And why? Often it's because of totally rushed, inadequate testing phases. When schedule pressures start to build up, teams will panic and skip user acceptance testing just to hit some arbitrary deadline. And let me tell you, that is exactly how broken systems go live.
Now, an ideal, expertly planned cutover strategy looks exactly like this. Weeks prior to launch, you are running deep reconciliation tests. Then, on Friday night, you initiate a total system freeze on the legacy software. The actual heavy lifting, the cutover data migration, happens over the weekend. Why? To completely minimize user disruption. And then Monday morning, boom, you execute the go-live and any DNS changes. It's clean, it's controlled, and it works.
Finally, Section 6, the human factor and support. Let's talk about post-op recovery. You know, you can have the most beautifully engineered data migration in the world, but if your humans aren't supported throughout the process, your massive investment is totally wasted. Organizational readiness has to perfectly parallel your technical milestones. During the planning phase, hire that temp staff so your team isn't doing double duty. During implementation, maintain crystal clear communication channels to reduce everyone's anxiety. And post-go live, provide continuous ongoing training.
And I want to make this absolutely clear. Post-migration optimization is not optional. It's just not. The job isn't done just because the data is successfully sitting in the new system. You absolutely need a dedicated hypercare period right after launch to resolve those inevitable little mapping issues and to ensure that your users are actually productive and comfortable in the new environment.
Which leaves us with this final, truly critical thought. As you look at your own organization, especially as we adapt all these global best practices to our incredibly fast-paced Israeli tech environments, ask yourself this. Are you simply planning a basic software installation, or are you engineering a successful, life-saving business surgery? Choose the engineered approach. Respect your data. Support your people. Do that, and your recovery will be a massive success. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.